The celestial cartographer, a vast research vessel of the galactic consensus, drifted through a quiet star system on the rim of known space. Its mission was routine: survey, catalog, and assess. On board, Scholar Tvek of the insectoid Cthar meticulously reviewed data streams. His compound eyes reflected the soft glow of holographic displays, each reporting a familiar, comforting pattern. Worlds were scanned with the quantum resonance imager, a device that mapped the foundational energy signature of a species' civilization, their collective consciousness, technological harmony, and societal stability. It was the ultimate measure of a culture's advancement and threat level. The system's third planet, a blue-green marble, registered as a curious anomaly. Initial scans showed rampant biological activity, complex atmospheric changes, and radio wave pollution suggesting a pre-FTL fractured civilization. A standard entry for the database. Tvek initiated the deep resonance scan. The QRI hummed, its probes penetrating the psychic and technological strata of the world called Earth. The first readout made his chitinous plates rattle in confusion. The resonance signature was not singular, as with all other species. It was a screaming, chaotic cacophony of thousands of conflicting frequencies. Aggression, compassion, sublime creativity, and sheer brutality bled together in a seething, incoherent mess. The technological harmony index was virtually zero. They used powerful energy sources next to primitive tools, their global network teetering between profound connection and vicious discord. According to all consensus axioms, such a civilization should have torn itself apart millennia ago. Puzzled, Tvek ordered a focused scan on a single, dominant population center. The scanner settled over a landmass on a dense urban sprawl. The data that flooded the bridge was incomprehensible. The QRI detected, with pinpoint accuracy, the emotional resonance of individual humans. In one small district, it mapped overwhelming grief from a collective mourning ritual. Directly adjacent, it pinpointed the vibrant, joyful resonance of a communal feast. A few kilometers away, the focused determination of individuals solving complex theoretical problems, and beside it, the aggressive, competitive fervor of a physical contest. But the machine did more than map, it interpreted. And its interpretation, based on the unified field consciousness models of 1,000 unified species, was catastrophic. It projected the chaotic resonance forward along its logical path. The scanner's alarm blared, painting the main viewer in urgent crimson glyphs. Its diagnosis flashed, a conclusion derived from flawless consensus science. Biosignature analysis, terminal species. Planet-wide civilization exhibiting simultaneous, advanced stages of multiple, mutually exclusive terminal psychoses. Manic depression on a civilizational scale. Aggressive paranoia coexistent with trust-based cooperation. Creative euphoria bordering on psychosis alongside deep, catastrophic despair. Prognosis: imminent, violent self-annihilation. Threat assessment: 0. Civilization is PRE oblivion. No external contact required. Observation protocol: non-interference during extinction event. A somber quiet fell on the bridge. The crew, a mosaic of various starfaring races, felt a collective pang of tragic pity. They had found a dying race, a civilization in its final, frenzied death throes. The captain ordered the data sealed and transmitted to the consensus archives, a sad footnote in galactic history. They prepared to leave the system, their charts marked with a black glyph of impending doom. As the celestial cartographer turned its graceful bulk, aligning for its jump, a junior technician, a mammalian cell nav, noticed a minor subsystem alert. A low-powered, archaic orbital object of human design, a satellite, had passively reflected a sliver of the QRI's scan beam back to its source. The data was negligible, just a flicker. The technician dismissed it. On the planet below, in a dozen unconnected observatories, a few human scientists noted an unexplained atmospheric shimmer and a burst of unidentifiable particle decay, filing it with other cosmic mysteries. The tragedy of the terminally psychotic humans became a quiet sensation in the consensus's academic circles. Scholar Tvek's paper, The Doomed World, a case study in pre-collapse resonance chaos, was widely discussed. The story was a melancholic favorite. A species so tragically flawed it was a wonder it had even reached its own moon. The consensus, a tapestry of emotionally stable, unified species, viewed the data with a mixture of horror and profound relief that they were not so afflicted. Months later, a different kind of ship entered the Sol system. The Voracious Appetite was a glutton-class harvester vessel of the Creel, a species not bound by consensus regulations. The Creel were scavengers, strip miners of worlds whose native species were no longer a concern. They monitored consensus channels and had intercepted Tvek's report. A planet pre-marked for extinction was a free lunch. No ethical quarrels, no defense to overcome. They arrived in stealth, their scanners confirming the consensus findings from a distance. The chaotic resonance signature was even louder, more frenetic than before. The Creel commander, GRZZL, chuckled, a sound like grinding rocks. They're not just dying. They're screaming while they do it. Begin harvesting Protocol Alpha. Prioritize heavy metals, hydrocarbons, and biological samples. Ignore the primitives. They're ghosts already. The Creel operation began with silent efficiency. Massive energy siphons descended into the gas giants of the outer system. Strip mining drones were deployed on uninhabited moons. Then, they moved closer. A resource extraction probe, designed to quietly siphon the planet's oceanic mineral wealth, was dispatched to Earth. It descended into the deep Pacific, its presence disguised as a minor seismic event. And it disappeared, not with an explosion, but with a sudden, total loss of signal. GRZZL assumed a technical fault. A second probe, a terrestrial miner for the rare Earth deposits of a continental desert, met the same fate upon landing. No debris, no distress signal, just silence. Annoyed, GRZZL launched a high-altitude surveillance drone to scan the failure sites. The drone transmitted for 3 seconds. It showed a blur of motion, a primitive, chemically propelled aircraft of human design had, with impossible accuracy, fired a projectile that released a cloud of particulates. The drone's sensors were blinded, and then its signal was lost to a targeted electromagnetic pulse from a ground-based installation. On the bridge of the Voracious Appetite, confusion turned to unease. This was not the behavior of a species lost in civilizational madness. This was coordinated, precise, and frighteningly effective defense. GRZZL, now angered, broke stealth. He ordered a warning shot, a low-powered plasma lance to scorch a barren area of desert, a display of power to cow any remaining primitive resistance. The moment the Voracious Appetite's weapons powered up, the silent void around Earth came alive. 1,000 hidden eyes opened. Dormant military satellites switched from passive to active targeting. Subterranean command centers, built for scenarios far stranger than alien invasion, went to alert. The Creel ship's sensor board lit up with 1,000 new contacts, targeting lasers, radar locks, and powerful radio frequency beams painting his hull. Before GRZZL could utter an order, a salvo of kinetic kill vehicles, slender rods of tungsten fired from orbital platforms humans had forgotten they had, streaked upwards. They were crude, lacking shields, or FTL, but they moved at a significant fraction of light speed and hit with the force of small asteroids. The Creel shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, flared and buckled under the brutal kinetic assault. Alarms shrieked on the harvester vessel. GRZL stared at the hologram of Earth, no longer a sad, blue marble, but a planet bristling with sudden, vicious defiance. The chaotic resonance signature on his scanner now seemed to pulse in a new, terrifying rhythm. It wasn't the random noise of a dying mind. It was the unified, thunderous drumbeat of war. Chaos reigned on the voracious appetite. Consensus technology was elegant, designed for peace. Creel technology was brutish, designed for pillaging undefended worlds. Neither was prepared for the ferocious, asymmetrical ingenuity of humanity at war. The kinetic bombardment was just the opening move. Human networks, a chaotic tapestry of competing nations and corporations, performed a feat the unified consensus believed impossible. In seconds, they formed a single, seamless, ad hoc battlenet. Air Force generals in Nebraska coordinated with naval commanders in the South China Sea. Cybersecurity experts in Estonia worked with software hackers in California. Satellite data from a dozen competing nations fused into a single, crystal-clear image of the alien vessel. The Creel ship, damaged and reeling, attempted to retreat to a higher orbit. As it rose, it flew through a cloud of microscopic orbital debris. Not natural, but a purposefully dispersed cloud of abrasive industrial grit and shredded metal chaff from 100 decommissioned satellites, sown by disguised tug ships hours before. The particulates scourged the ship's hull and sensors, causing further system failures. On the ground, the story was the same. The Creel landing party sent to investigate the lost probes in the Pacific was tracked by a dozen different entities: a Taiwanese fishing vessel sonar, a U.S. Navy SOSUS array, a Japanese weather buoy. When their submersible surfaced near a remote atoll, they were not met with primitive spears. They were met by a team from a multinational special forces unit that had been training together for a scenario exactly like this. The firefight was brief, brutal, and ended with stunned Creel warriors in custody, their energy weapons confiscated and already being reverse-engineered in 3 separate labs. Back in orbit, Giarzi's yell made his worst mistake. In a fit of rage, he targeted a major human population center with his primary plasma cannon, aiming to punish the planet into submission. The moment the weapon charged, every human asset with offensive capability received a single, unified firing solution. From silos in Wyoming and on-board submarines beneath the Arctic ice, 72 nuclear-tipped missiles streaked skyward. They were not aimed at the ship. They were aimed at the space directly around it. The void erupted into a hellstorm of radiation, EMP, and fragmenting warheads. The Creel shields, already weakened, collapsed. The ship's hull was punctured in a dozen places. Systems failed, but the humans weren't done. As the voracious appetite tumbled, crippled, a final, almost poetic stroke was delivered. An experimental ground-based laser array in China, designed for asteroid deflection, focused its entire power output on the ship's damaged engine manifold. It was a slow, burning cut, a welder's torch applied to a crippled beast. The transmission from Giarzi's yell, broadcast on every frequency, was not a declaration of war, but a plea for mercy, filled with terror and utter disbelief. It was intercepted by the returning celestial cartographer, which had been dispatched by a concerned consensus to observe the extinction event. Tvek and the consensus crew watched, their understanding of reality shattering. As the human world they had pitted systematically dismantled a Creel harvester. They saw the chaotic resonance signature on their scanners do something unprecedented. The thousands of conflicting frequencies did not harmonize. Instead, they orchestrated. The aggressive paranoia became hypervigilance. The manic creativity became battlefield innovation. The deep despair forged an unbreakable will to survive. The trust-based cooperation linked billions in a shared, furious purpose. The very contradictions the scanner had diagnosed as terminal psychoses had become the ingredients for a terrifying, emergent resilience. The consensus delegation arrived in terror and awe. Their graceful emissary ship, the Dialogue of Dawn, approached Earth with protocols of utmost humility and caution. They broadcast messages of peace, apology, and a desperate request for dialogue. The human response was not unified, which terrified the aliens even more. They received 74 different diplomatic hails from competing nation-states, 3 from unified planetary blocks, and 1 from a powerful transnational corporation. Yet, somehow, these disparate voices agreed on a single meeting place, a neutral orbital platform hastily assembled from repurposed space station modules and salvaged creel hull plating. The human delegation was a microcosm of their chaos. A stern Chinese general sat beside a pragmatic European Union diplomat. A Nigerian software architect who had helped crash the creel navigation systems shared data with a grim-faced American admiral. A Brazilian environmental scientist passionately argued for galactic conservation laws with a Russian engineer who was already sketching designs based on capture creel tech. Scholar Tvek, present as an advisor, felt his entire life's work crumble. He presented the findings of the quantum resonance imager to the humans, showing them the diagnosis of terminal psychosis. The room fell silent as the aliens' pity was displayed. Then, to Tvek's shock, the humans laughed. It wasn't a unified laugh, but a burst of different tones, wry chuckles, hearty guffaws, nervous giggles. "You're not wrong," said the software architect, wiping her eyes. You just don't get it. That mania? That's us building a cathedral or writing a symphony while grieving a war. That paranoia? That's the caution that keeps us from trusting a species that scans us and declares us dead. The depression? That's the depth that lets us understand loss and fight like hell to prevent more of it. The general spoke, his voice like gravel. Your machine looks for harmony. We are not a chord. We are a cacophony. The tension between our notes is what creates our music. It is often ugly. It sometimes breaks. But when an external force tries to silence the orchestra, he said, gesturing to a viewport showing the derelict creel ship under tow, every instrument, no matter how dissonant, plays the same song. No. The negotiations were long and complex. The consensus, represented by a deeply shaken but wise avian species, the Evians, offered membership, technology, and a place in their peaceful union. The humans listened, fascinated, but their questions were telling. They didn't ask about warp drive mechanics first. They asked about the consensus's laws on individual freedom, on the right to dispute, on the tolerance for conflict. They were horrified by the idea of emotional uniformity, of a resonance that was always in sync. In the end, a new glyph was entered into the galactic database next to Earth. It was not the black mark of doom, nor the golden spiral of a consensus member. It was a complex, interlaced knot of multiple threads, a symbol of contained dynamic discord. Humanity was offered not membership, but a treaty of mutual respect and non-interference. They were designated as a guardian species, a volatile, unpredictable, but incredibly powerful force placed on the remote spiral arm. The unspoken understanding was clear. The galaxy would not try to change humanity, and humanity would direct its formidable, chaotic energies outward, perhaps as a shield against threats the peaceful consensus could not even conceive of. As the dialogue of dawn prepared to leave, Tvek accessed one last scanner reading from the Earth's surface. It focused on a single human, a child in a war-torn region who had just been pulled from rubble by soldiers of an opposing faction. The scanner showed a dizzying spike of trauma and fear, immediately followed by a surge of comfort as the soldier shared his water, and then a flicker of hope as the child was shown a simple drawing of a star. 3 contradictory resonances in a sequence that told a story of suffering, compassion, and resilience. Tvek finally understood. The scanner had detected the symptoms, but missed the diagnosis. It wasn't a sickness. It was the process of being human. He looked at the planet, no longer with pity, but with a sense of wondrous, terrifying awe. The stars had been shaken, not by a monster, but by a truth they were too harmonious to comprehend, that from relentless, beautiful discord could come an unstoppable will to endure.